It is Throwback Thursday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's David Wilson. I'm Maurice Patton. He and I will be here with you for the next couple of hours, talking local, regional, and national sports topics as we inch one day closer to the second round of the TSSAA high school football playoffs. Glad to have y'all with us. David, happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday, Mo. Good to be back in the studio per se. I missed yesterday, my normal day. Yesterday was National Signing Day for those that are aware and tuned into high school sports. So I was shaking hands and kissing babies across the Wilson County area. I think we had 21 signees overall yesterday from 5 different schools. So I was a busy man per se. If you want to read all about it, go to the Wilson Post website or the Chronicle of Mount Juliet or Main Street Preps. We got you covered on every single one with a blurb and picture. So that meant a lot to me, and I was glad that me and my staff were able to do that. But that resulted in Wade Neely filling in for my absence yesterday, so I appreciate him doing that.
Absolutely. And it's nice when you can recognize those individuals that are taking the next step in their academic and athletic careers, putting pen to paper and that kind of thing. So congrats to all of those folks and to everybody else across our listening area that signed on National Signing Day for what? Men's and women's basketball, everything but football basically today yesterday started off, right?
Yeah, I believe we had 7 different sports for Wilson County schools. We even had an equestrian scholarship with Lauren Hollis at Wilson Central going to UT Martin. So we were very diverse in our portfolio, and it was really good once again to be out and about and get to talk to some of the families and talk to the players of spring sports that I had not met officially. So that was really cool. And I think, more they brought snacks too. Tegan Feshko at Lebanon, who signed with Eastern Kentucky softball in the morning, had donuts. Those donuts were phenomenal. So I appreciate her family bringing those out and thinking of us sports writers who will never turn down a free meal.
You know, the way to a sports writer's heart is through his stomach for sure. So yeah, I'm glad they hooked you up, David. And sounds like you did some nice work yesterday. So that's good. Today we will have with us in the second hour the queen of Tennessee sports media, TERESA Walker of the Associated Press, will be joining us as we talk a little. We'll probably focus more on the Grizzlies. I'm not sure why, but we will be talking Grizzlies, particularly when we speak with TERESA during the 3 o'clock hour. In the next segment, it's Coach's Corner. We will be joined by Oakland High School football coach Kevin Creasy. The Patriots getting ready to take on visiting Bradley Central in the second round of the Class 6A state playoffs. And always fun when we can get Creasy on, so looking forward to that. We'll also be talking football at all levels. As we like to say around here, from preps to pros, we will be touching on high school, collegiate, and professional football topics here over the next couple of hours. We'll talk a little college basketball as well, both men's and women's. And it's going to be a wide ranging show. Looking forward to doing so. So, again, TERESA Walker in hour number 2. Oh, and it is Throwback Thursday. We will be throwing it back to a recent conversation we had with Thomas Harding of MLB.com. We checked in with Thomas in his capacity as beat writer for the Colorado Rockies because he had covered teams when Walt Weiss was their manager, and we checked in with him regarding the new Atlanta Braves skipper. So be sure and check that out at the top of the 3 o'clock hour. So plenty to get to here over the next couple of hours. It's going to be a lot of fun doing so. Let's go ahead and get started doing so, David, with yesterday's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
Last night's scores, we're going to start off in women's basketball at the college level. It was Vanderbilt going up to Clarksville and defeating Austin Peay by a final score of 75-65. Michaela Blake's the standout sophomore for the Commodores, 26 points in that one. TCU all over Tennessee State yesterday, 122-39 was the final score there. In men's basketball, University of Tennessee defeated North Florida 99-66. MTSU picked up a 77-72 win over at Evansville. Over at Memorial Gymnasium, it was Vanderbilt getting their third victory of the season. They defeated Eastern Kentucky 92-62. And in NIA ball, it was Georgia Gwinnett 101, Cumberland University 77. In the NBA, it was the Boston Celtics picking up a 131-95 win over the Memphis Grizzlies.
Yeah, we'll be talking more with TERESA about that one in the second hour. Tonight's women's basketball slate at 6 o'clock at Food City Center at Thompson Bowling Arena. It will be the visiting Belmont Bruins taking on the Lady Vols. Again, that is a 6 o'clock Central Time start. You can see it on the SEC Network. Also at 6 o'clock on ESPN Plus over at Allen Arena, the host Lipscomb Lady Bisons taking on Johnson University out of Knoxville. And in Thursday night NFL action on Amazon Prime, it is the New York Jets taking on the New England Patriots. That is a 7:15 start. Again, you can see it on Amazon Prime. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes your rundown. By the fine folks at Piggly Wiggly and Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story as Major League Baseball continues to announce its award winners for the 2025 season. The Cy Young winners were announced last night, and I don't think anybody was shocked. Tarek Skubal of the Detroit Tigers is your American League Cy Young Award winner. Second verse, same as the first. It's the second year he has taken that honor. In the National League, Pittsburgh's Paul Skeens is your Cy Young Award winner, and joining a very short list of individuals who were named Rookie of the Year and Cy Young winners in back-to-back seasons. And I think the one question about both of these guys, the one common question probably is, where will they be next? Because Detroit, there's been rumblings that Skubal is going to get moved over the offseason. There have been rumblings here of late that Skeens wants out of Pittsburgh as soon as possible. He's never going to say that, but that seems to be the case. And I can understand why, because it took forever for this guy to get over 500 this season. But he was pitching Cy Young quality baseball all season, obviously. So interesting stuff. Paul Skeens, Tarek Skubal, your National League and American League Cy Young winners.
I mean, Mo, these two are as dominant as it gets when you think about power pitching, and that's kind of what baseball has transitioned to over the last decade. I mean, we have so many guys that are touching 95 plus to 100 miles per hour. These two are at the top of their craft. When you think about Paul Skeens, I don't think anybody's ever lived up to the number one pick as much as he has through their first two seasons. Maybe Steven Strasburg, maybe. But, think about Rookie of the Year, where, you could have made an argument that he could have been the Cy Young Award winner as well his rookie year. And then, I don't think there was any doubt this past season that he was the best pitcher in the National League. And as you mentioned, imagine what his record would have been if he had a capable offense behind him to back him. I mean, imagine if he could get 3 or 4 runs a game with just the stuff that he has. The arsenal, the dude throws strikes. He's very elite at that. So he is going to be a generational pitcher if he stays healthy. And I can only imagine the contract that he will get once he hits free agency with these, figures that we're getting. And then you mentioned Tarek Skubal. Lefty, powerful pitcher, running up to 100. A big game pitcher who wants the ball. He has that ace mentality. So we will see where he ends up. He's been on the record saying that he wants to win in Detroit, and they've done a lot of winning over the last couple of years with him. They've made the postseason 2 years in a row. They've really leaned on him heavily. Would like to see them get some arms maybe around him to help fill out that rotation. But those are two of the best in the game, and really in the American League, the two best pitchers are left-handed. You got Garrett Crochet, former Tennessee Vol up in Boston with the Red Sox, who was second place in the AL Cy Young. But, lefty pitching is at a premium, so a guy like Skubal is even more demanding. So someone's going to pony up and trade for him with Detroit, you better get ready to give up a king's ransom.
Oh yeah, it's going to take a lot to get him out of there, but I think they are listening to phone calls for sure. Skeens, though, as you mentioned, 10-10 with a 197 earned run average. I don't know how many no decisions he had. I don't know how many, losses he took that were, 1 and 2 run ball games, that kind of thing, like you said. But this guy, he pitched way better than his record. And fortunately, those in charge of the voting and that kind of thing saw that because he you said it, he's a generational talent. And it's hard to believe this guy began his collegiate career as a catcher at Air Force Academy. That's just nuts.
And that's what's crazy about baseball is we see these late bloomers. We see these guys that come off the radar. You mentioned the elite company of guys that Tarek Skubal joined as back-to-back Cy Young Award winners. I think about a guy like Jacob deGrom, who did it with the Mets in the National League. He played at Florida Gulf Coast. Or played at Stetson, And then Chris Sale played at Florida Gulf Coast. Like, these guys didn't go to these elite universities. They played mid-major baseball, but they were able to develop their skills, get in the right organization where, pitching gets brought to the forefront. I mean, we're Braves fans, Mo. Think about how the Braves turn out pitching year after year. Spencer Strider went to Clemson. That's an ACC program, but he wasn't a first-round pick. He wasn't a second-round pick. It's about development and getting these guys in the right organizations where they can fit. And, it's a tweak here and a tweak there, and then they're on their way. So, but yeah, I think there was not a doubt that these were the two most deserving winners in each respective league.
You when you said Spencer, you then went in the wrong direction, I thought, because Spencer Schwellenbach coming out of college.
Nebraska.
Yeah, he was a shortstop. Yeah, so I mean, you can get found, and Skeens has an interesting comment in this article on MLB.com. As I look back on my path in baseball up to this point, I got recruited to college as a catcher, kept growing and started pitching and got better on the mound. Never thought I would end up here. Never thought I would be in the major leagues, much less winning a Cy Young. So it doesn't always work out how you think it's going to. But if you stay the course, and this is what, and I don't want to be preachy or anything like that, but kids and coaches need to hear this. If you stay the course, you surround yourself with good people, you work hard, you're going to do exactly what you're supposed to do, whatever that looks like. And that's how you're going to maximize whatever you've got. Stay the course, surround yourself with good people, work hard. And it doesn't have to be at a Vanderbilt or a Tennessee or a Florida or an Arkansas. Again, if you are getting it done, or you've got the profile that makes them think you can get it done, they're going to find you. And these two guys are kind of proof positive of that. Skeens in particular. Again, Skeens is the third guy to win Rookie of the Year and Cy Young over the first two seasons of their career. Fernando Valenzuela won them both in 1981 with the Dodgers. Dwight Gooden of the Mets was Rookie of the Year in 84 and the NL Cy Young winner in 85. That's not bad company to be in for the former LSU stand-up.
And he's going to get traded at some point from Pittsburgh. I don't think it's going to be next year or maybe the year after. But, Pittsburgh is not going to be able to pay top dollar on the market to retain him. He's going to end up probably in a bigger market team that's going to give him a wealthy contract. And that's kind of Pittsburgh's MO. Remember, they had Garrett Cole. They drafted and developed him out of UCLA before he went on to be with the Houston Astros and then later the New York Yankees. So, Pittsburgh, a small market team. They're able to cash in this chip and get other chips to fill. They have so many holes on their offense, as we mentioned, with their inability to score runs. But it would be really nice if they could get in the postseason. And I say that being a fan of another team in the National League, because I want to see the best play in October. And I don't think there's without a doubt that Paul Skeens is one of the best on the mound in the National League. He will be pure electricity in Game 1 of a postseason series or a wild card series, for that matter.
Particularly in PNC Park. which I've
Yeah.
not been to, but everybody I've talked to that has been says you got to go. One of the crown jewels, just from facility standpoint, in Major League Baseball, and that fan base really deserves it. And I say that as the fan of the franchise that probably sent them on this 30-year spin of misery here. You talk about guys being found and anywhere. Skubal played his college ball at Seattle University. Not exactly a baseball powerhouse. So, keep doing what you do, guys. They'll find you. Tarek Skubal, your American League Cy Young Award winner. Paul Skeens, your National League Cy Young Award winner. Congrats to both. We had Managers of the Year announced on Tuesday night. Stephen Vogt from Cleveland and Pat Murphy from the Brewers was your National League winner. So what's left? I guess MVP is what's left. Is that right? And they'll announce that tonight?
I'm really scared. I'm going to pound the table for Cal Raleigh just because of the catcher position, what he does as a switch hitter. But I just feel like there's a New York bias in the media. Aaron Judge is a great player.
Really?
Don't get me wrong. Aaron Judge is a great player, historically great player, what he does. He doesn't play catcher. And he didn't lead his team to the division title for the first time since Calvin White was born. So Cal Raleigh is a deserving MVP. Not to say that Aaron Judge isn't, but Cal Raleigh is more than deserving of winning an MVP for the Seattle Mariners.
And on the National League side, I don't think there's really any sense in talking about it, right?
I have a feeling it's going to be Ohtani, but once again, I don't like this team either. But Kyle Schwarber did a historic season, and when you have a historic season, I know Shohei is a historic player, but Kyle Schwarber had a historic season for the Phillies as a strictly DH. I think the strictly DH part hurts him because he doesn't play a position.
I think the 240 batting average hurts him.
Yeah, with the 54 home runs.
56 home runs, 132 runs batted in. The 56 home runs leads the league. The 132 ribs leads Major League Baseball. So
yeah, but he doesn't pitch. Maybe he doesn't play in LA.
No, he doesn't do either of those. So yeah, tune in tomorrow, and someone will let you know how that went. Let's take a break here as we get started on Throwback Thursday on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, it'll be Coach's Corner. We will be visiting with Oakland football coach Kevin CREASY. Stick around.
Closer. All new Sportsbook, the latest gaming machines, live horse racing, and more. The Mid Gaming Hall, Kentucky Downs.
Winning just got closer.
This holiday season, the largest lantern festival in the country returns to Nashville Zoo. Experience more than 1,000 all-new handcrafted lanterns, towering creatures, magical worlds, and a North Pole village. At the center of it all, the Smashville Ice Rink. Welcome back to Zoolumination at Nashville Zoo. Bigger, brighter, and better than ever.
Busy bee, yeah, busy bee. If you need...
Hold on, y'all, hold on. I need to make a call. Hey, this is Brianna with Busy Bee. I'm giving you a call to let you know your technician is on his way.
3-3.
Guys, not yet. Not yet.
Busy Bee, oh,
Now
busy
ready,
bee.
guys.
Call 775-7833.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
Welcome back into Throwback Thursday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's David Wilson, as we anxiously await the arrival of the fashionably late Oakland football coach, Kevin CREASY, for Coach's Corner. Here's what we can do, David. First, David, talk to me.
I got you. Can you hear me?
There I can. Yeah, I was a little concerned about that. We had some.
He has the right to be fashionably late. I mean, he's a busy guy. You know, maybe the top team in the state getting ready for a high school football playoff game. I think we can give him a pass for a few minutes at least.
we will give Coach CREASY a little grace, but while we do, Mark, can we go ahead with some awards? Do things a little backwards. Okay. Yeah. Let's go ahead and give our weekly awards as we await Kevin CREASY. Let's start with our Custom Stone Handlers In to Win Life Team of the Week. That would be the Lawrence County Wildcats football team. That's not them. That's not Lawrence County. That's somebody in red. Lawrence County's purple and gold. At any rate, the Wildcats went on the road as the number 4 seed. They were one of 5 4 seeds in Division I football playoff action this past weekend to come up with victories. They went over to top seeded Ray County, 9-1 Ray County, and dealt the Golden Eagles a 38-20 defeat, ending their season and advancing to a second straight road game. We'll be talking more about that later in the show as well. But yeah, Lawrence County going on the road as a 4 seed, winning 38-20 over at Ray County in Class 5A opening round playoff action. The Wildcats are our Custom Stone Handlers In to Win Life Team of the Week. Besides the military, there is no more what's the word I'm looking for? There is no greater team building venture than athletics. Custom Stone Handlers invites you to get in the game. Again, congrats to the Lawrence County Wildcats. Our Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia Athlete of the Week is Daniel Booker out of Columbia Central. The junior quarterback, 29 carries, 355 yards. 355, 6 touchdowns in Central's 70-42 win over East Hamilton. East Hamilton featuring Class 5A Mr. Football semifinalist Jaden Haywood, who had a great game on his own. But again, Booker, 276 and 5 touchdowns in the first half of that ball game, and then coasted home from there. 355 rushing yards, 6 touchdowns on 29 carries in Central's big win to open Class 5A playoff action as well. So again, congratulations to Daniel Booker, our Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance Athlete of the Week, and to the Lawrence County Wildcats, our In to Win Life Team of the Week.
It's a lot of rushing yards.
That is a lot of rushing yards, but here's what's crazy. He had a teammate, Hassan Ball, who went for another 259 and 3 touchdowns on 19 carries. They rushed for
optional.
Yeah, they rushed for 685 yards Friday night.
That's got to be close to a state record, does it not have
Well,
to
I
be?
looked, and unfortunately, they didn't have that.
Okay, that you had the first thought that I did. I'm like, that's got to be close. When I was keeping
680.
up with Andre Adams at versus Franklin Road Academy, and he got to 9 touchdowns, I'm like, okay, we need to start looking at the TSSAA website here to see
Absolutely.
where we rank. So
Yeah, and the 355 for an individual was just off of the top 10. Um, Let me revisit
that's
that
wild to
real
think
quick.
about.
Hmm. It's
I don't think people realize. I mean, it's such a big number, but to do that in a single game with sometimes limited possessions. Now, if your defense is getting you the ball back, but that might be at the consequence of a short field. That's a lot of yards to chew up.
well, here's what's crazy. Friday night, again, Daniel Booker goes for 355 yards on 29 carries. Spring Hill in their 41-34 win over
White
White House. Lionel Brooks went for 325 yards on 30 carries. And then Forest sophomore Quincy Mitchell in their win against Chattanooga Prep, I think it was, had 397 rushing yards on 42 carries. I think he scored 6 touchdowns and had a defensive touchdown as well. So I don't know if
Well,
there was. I didn't notice the moon Friday night. I don't know if
there's
there was.
something in the water.
I don't know if there was a patron saint of running backs at work on Friday night or what the situation was, but that was pretty nuts. Three 300-yard games on Friday night to open playoff action. And I am looking for single game rushing yardage records, scrolling through the
Well,
TSSAA record.
while you're stalling and scrolling, I'll say this, and we had another great performance in the My TV 30 game of the week between Riverdale and Lebanon. Sophomore running back Jacob Vaughn for Riverdale had 275 yards rushing in that one and had a 40-plus yard touchdown negated by a holding penalty. So he would have went over 300 as well against the Blue Devils if not for a penalty. So must have been something in the water or the extra. I can't say extra day of rest because some people played on Thursday. So we'll see, but yeah, we'll see if those guys can replicate those performances this week. Obviously, the task gets tougher the further you get in the postseason.
Absolutely. Okay, so rushing yardage, the number 10 number is 402. But they also have rushing yardage by quarterback. And that is where Mr. Booker would come in. And he would now be number 9 on this list. He would fall in just ahead of former Upperman quarterback Connor York, who went for 347 back in 2013. Just ahead of York, just behind Union City's Lazarus Scribner, who had 368 rushing yards in a 2017 game. So yeah, there we go.
Question is how often does the TSLA update those websites? So, for instance, Andre Adams had the state record against Centennial for most yards with 714, I believe. Then he had 9 touchdowns against FRA, which I would have believed put him third
Yeah.
for individual performances. So, I guess my question is how often do those update? Because with the performances that we're having these days, those conversations and those implementations need to be done. That way we can have an accurate representation, if you know what I'm saying.
I think Andre is actually in here. I think I saw him
Okay.
on a list here not too long ago. Um as we again continue to wait on Kevin Creasy. Yeah. Total offense in a yard, total offense in a game. He's up here 507 passing, 207 rushing, 714 total. Again, a yard ahead of the aforementioned Connor York. So,
And
Mark,
if that was the case and I was Connor York, I need a recount on that statistics. I need every yard accounted for. If he's going to pass my record, I need every yard accumulated and totaled it once again.
Especially if he's going to pass my record by a yard. Yeah. Let's drop back to our awards for just a second because Mark has located the correct Lawrence County team. There they are. That's them. That purple and gold looks good, doesn't it? The Lawrence County Wildcats, again, our custom stone handlers in to win life team of the week. Congrats to them, and congrats to producer Mark for getting the correct picture up there. Mark does a lot, man. So we're never going to kick on Mark for the occasional faux pas. So again, Oakland takes on Bradley Central in Class 6A second round action on Friday night. And as David mentioned, a lot of Thursday night games last week. I don't think that's going to be an issue this time around. I think everybody's playing at the appointed time. The winner of that Oakland Bradley Central game will play the winner of Green Hill and Science Hill as the Hilltoppers make the long drive from Johnson City down to North Mount Juliet tomorrow night. David, are you going to that one?
I am not. Ivan Aronin and Pam Mattingly are going to be gracious enough to take care of that for me. I will be at Friendship Christian and PCA down at Floyd Stadium at MTSU as the number 1 seed out of the East region. The PCA Lions take on the number 2 seed out of the Middle region. John McNeil and the Friendship Christian Commanders. Should be a really good game. Really excited about that one. And to have those guys playing a venue of a college stadium in the quarterfinals, that's pretty special. So looking forward to that.
So that's where PCA plays its home games, all right?
Yes, they do not have a home field, so they play all their home games at MTSU.
Okay. PCA got a bye last week. Friendship Christian opened with a 49-7 win over Tipton Rosemark.
Pumping.
The winner
Truly was in attendance for that.
The winner of that game will play the winner of USJ and Donaldson Christian. Those two will play tomorrow night out in Jackson in the second round of the D2A playoffs. USJ getting the bye last week. Donaldson Christian defeating Providence Academy, not Providence Christian. Providence Academy out of Upper East Tennessee, 42-14. So in the bottom half of the D2A bracket, you've got Nashville Christian and Jackson Christian tomorrow night. That game will be over on Sawyer Brown Road. Jackson Christian opened with a 27-13 win over Concord Christian. And the final game in those quarterfinals in D2A will be Trinity Christian and Middle Tennessee Christian. Where is that game, David?
I believe it's in West Tennessee. It's at Trinity Christian.
Okay, so Middle Tennessee Christian getting on.
The
That's a matchup of two.
Bad.
Yeah, but that's a matchup of two seeds. That's why it didn't the bracket here doesn't denote who the home team is. So Middle Tennessee Christian going out west after a 62-14 win over Chattanooga Grace, winless Chattanooga Grace in the opening round. Trinity Christian defeated Franklin Christian 55-7 in round 1 last weekend. So that is your D2A bracket quarterfinal rounds tomorrow. In D2AA, let's see. Lausanne.
CPA has barely had to travel at all. They had to go to Lipscomb last week, and they're going to, I believe, let's say, catch me, they're going to Innsworth this week. So CPA's travel has been pretty much nil. In 2 weeks, I think they've gone about 10 miles, and Science Hill's going about 270 to go in 1 week.
In 2 road games, they've barely, gotten the heat running. Yeah, again, CPA is at Innsworth in a D2 AAA game. They beat Lipscomb last week 35-24 to improve to 3-8 on the season. But we talked to Engel Martin a couple of weeks ago, and they have played a meat grinder of a schedule and hoping that it will pay off right about now. So CPA is at Innsworth in a D2 AAA quarterfinal matchup. The other part of that part of the bracket has Montgomery Bellamy going to Brentwood Academy. MBA defeated Memphis University School 44-14 last week. Brentwood Academy undefeated and had a bye last week. So the winner of MBA Brentwood Academy will play the winner of Christ Presbyterian and Ensworth. In the top half of the D2 AAA bracket, Knoxville Catholic travels to Baylor. Good luck to the Irish. 21-18 winners at Christian Brothers last weekend. Now they're going to Baylor. So, it's funny you talk about CPA and their travel. Knoxville Catholic played in Memphis last weekend, 121-18. Now they're going to Chattanooga, taking on unbeaten Baylor in the second round. The winner of that game will play the winner of McCallie and Briarcrest. That's another game out in Memphis. McCallie with a 59-20 win over Father Ryan last weekend. Briarcrest with a bye. So the Blue Tornado heading out to Memphis. And, man, Chattanooga to Memphis.
Yeah. I was going to say, while you're mentioning that D2 AAA bracket, it looks so drastically different than it has in years past, with McCallie and Baylor being on the same side of the bracket and not meeting per se in the state championship game in their own city out at Finley Stadium. So you're going to have a mid-state representative from the 615 in the state championship game in D2 AAA. I think a lot of people are going to put their money on Brentwood Academy with the season that they've had. But I think Ensworth, I don't want to sell Coach Martin and CPA short, but I think Ensworth and BA in the semifinals is a matchup that people are really looking forward to potentially seeing on paper.
Is it EJ Jordan? Is that the running back at Ensworth?
EJ Gibson.
EJ Gibson?
Ensworth, who got snubbed for Mr. Football. You could say they're my words, but I'm not the only one saying it.
Hey, got to be careful with that snub, man, because somebody gets their feelings hurt. But in D2
he was a worthy potential finalist, we'll say.
There we go.
Semifinalist.
Yeah. In D2 AA, Lausanne and Christian Academy of Knoxville play in a quarterfinal matchup tomorrow. You've also got Franklin Road Academy in Silverdale. You've got Boyd Buchanan and Franklin Grace, and you've got Battleground Academy and Knoxville Grace facing off. And
that's a nice little trip for the Wildcats and Coach Bentley, but they're a really talented group. Maddox Porter, who's a freshman for them, has been already collecting a bunch of Division I offers, probably one of the best wide receivers in the state, regardless of classification. He's really good. And obviously, Cade Marable, the Columbia commit, I guess future signee, is great for them at the quarterback position. So we talk about, projecting potential matchups. I know that group in particular is very hungry to maybe face Franklin Road Academy again after losing to the Panthers in the regular season and maybe getting some get back.
They're definitely trying to position themselves for some get back after that loss. And a lot of folks felt like they were the odds-on favorite to win D2 AA coming into the season after their loss to CPA in the D2 AA finals a year ago. So definitely keep an eye on Bobby Bentley and those Wildcats there. Let's continue the playoff talk when we come back here, as apparently we're not going to get Kevin CREASY. And I'm disappointed for a number of reasons. One, I like hanging out with him. Two, we told you we were going to have somebody and we don't. But at any rate, let's take a break. Let's come back and have some more high school football playoff talk here on Throwback Thursday on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia.
Columbia Power and Water Systems is dedicated to bringing our customers reliable, local service. Whether you're turning on a light switch, your faucet, or streaming on TV, our dedicated team members from here in Murray County work every day to keep you on. If you need us, call us 931-388-4833 or visit cpws.com. CPWS, local service, local support.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
Welcome back into Throwback Thursday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's David Wilson. And when we said the fashionably late Kevin CREASY would be joining us on Coach's Corner, did not think it was going to be an entire segment, but we'll now welcome in Oakland football coach Kevin CREASY. Coach, thanks for joining us. When is 220, not 220?
I thought you meant Western time.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
Mountain.
Dude, it's a good thing I like you. Thanks for joining us, man. We appreciate it.
I'm sure my fan base has just been anxiously awaiting the last 20 minutes.
You just don't know. We've gotten calls. Well, our phones have been ringing off the hook. Man, you told us you were going to have CREASY on. What's up? So, yeah. Kevin, there's been a lot made, particularly here in this second round, about, some of these matchups and some of the travel attached to them, I guess. Nothing that you're worried about, I don't guess. But, what have you thought as you look at this bracket or these brackets and some of these second round matchups? I guess early rematches was a big concern for some faction, and so they kind of tweaked the bracket a little bit, and you don't have region rematches, but you got a lot of folks doing a lot of traveling.
Yes, I completely understand. And as a person who has traveled a lot over the last few years, I see where people are coming from, but I also think that's part of the playoff system in which you kind of reward teams for having a good regular season, a good region season, and they get to host. And in years past, it's almost been like your regular season didn't matter as much, because if you lost, then, really and truly, you only got to beat a team once in your region. And that's the second time. So if it was the way it was, originally, I think we're hosting Riverdale, which we just played week 10 in one of the toughest games we've had in my 11 years here. And they were beat up after the game. We were beat up after the game. 3 of our starters were hurt. 3 of their starters were hurt. And then we had to limp into the playoffs. And then to turn right back around and have a game like that week 12, I don't think you're really rewarding your region in your region play. I think traveling isn't always good, and it is expensive, but it also creates new rivalries. I think it gives the fans a reason to come instead of, oh, well, they played this team just a couple weeks ago and they beat them by 40. I don't want to go see that. Whereas, a Blackman is traveling all the way to Dobbins-Bennett. I have a feeling they're going to travel well, and they're going to bring a crowd. And Dobbins-Bennett is playing an unfamiliar opponent instead of turning right around and playing somebody they just played a couple weeks ago. And Maryville against Riverdale week 2 in the playoffs, I think that's a pretty interesting matchup. So I think as a fan, it should bring about more interest in the playoffs. There's been so many times we played week 1, week 2, even week 3 games in the playoffs, and our fans just stay at home because they just seen the same movie a few weeks earlier whenever we're playing a team that we played 4 weeks earlier, and they might have finished 4th in our region, and we beat them by 40. So I definitely think people understand how great our game was with Bradley a couple years ago. And because of that, we're going to have a lot of people coming to our Bradley matchup, as opposed, to seeing us go through the same region opponents again.
David, you said that you had some stuff on tap
Yeah.
for Coach Creasy. Fire when ready.
Yeah, Coach Creasy, I'm really interested to get your perspective on this question. We heard Nick Saban say when he was at Alabama, the standard is the standard, right? And when I think about your program and yourself in particular, you guys are kind of the standard of Tennessee high school football. With the winning you've done over the last couple of years, being in contention for gold balls, sending players on to the next level. But that also brings a lot of pressure, right? It feels like from the media standpoint, before the schedule even comes out, we're penciling you guys in to go to the Blue Cross Bowl and compete for a state championship in Chattanooga. That brings a lot of pressure to a coaching staff and to a team. Kind of talk about how you guys handle that outside noise throughout the year.
Yes. So I'm sure Nick Saban probably felt a lot of pressure being penciled in as number one as well, but it's kind of the standard, like you were talking about. People want to play for a winner, so we're happy to provide that opportunity. At the end of the day, we think that, having high expectations is a good thing. Having high expectations with winning your last ball game, it does put a lot of pressure on you. You feel terrible when you lose the last game, even though 99% of the state loses their last game. So, yes, I mean, it's one of those, it's kind of you built your own monster, I guess you could say. But at the same time, we wouldn't want it any other way. We wouldn't want to just show up to work, roll a ball out there, see what happens. And then, if we win, we win. If we don't, we blame it on the kids. So we feel a lot of this is our responsibility as coaches to get these guys coached up and to beat really good people in the playoffs and hopefully have a chance to play for another championship.
Coach, you got two special players in particular that were announced as Mr. Football semifinalists prior to the playoffs. Joel Wyatt going to Tennessee, Craig Tutt going to Ole Miss. Please speak on those two particularly. I think we all know how special football players they are on the field. Please talk about the men off the field as well, and then maybe some players who don't get enough shine in the media per se that have been kind of some glue guys that have really stood out to you on your football team.
Yeah, most people know about Joel White and Craig Tutt. They're going to know about them. On Saturdays, they're going to have a successful career at whichever schools they go to and whichever schools they end up at. Nowadays, you just never know. They're going to start one way and hopefully they can finish that school and end up playing on Sundays. But, we were talking the other day with our whole team, with all our starters, man, we've got some actually really good human beings. We got some good kids with some good raising, good parents, and all that stuff. So it's been a pleasure. A lot of there's a lot of people that could be getting a lot of the praise, for our success. Players like Craig Tutt, Joel White, they're going to make their plays, but a lot of times a good ball game comes down to what's your eighth best player doing against their eighth best player. You know what I'm saying? What's your 10th best player doing against their 10th best player? And we're deeper this year than we have been in a long time. I think unsung on defense, Cullen Williams, just playing tremendously on defense. Trayvon Jackson just came out of nowhere, didn't play a lot last year, and now he's the leader of our defense, having a heck of a season. Our two quarterbacks, even though they're brand new to our school and our system, one's a freshman, 15 years old, and he's starting for a 6A powerhouse. Doing a tremendous job. And then, of course, they're sharing snaps. So every other play, you'll either see 5 or 6, in the game for us. Cam Morton is the youngster, just got an Eastern Kentucky offer the other day. Dante Cameron is the junior. And like I said, the best thing about those two is they're celebrating everybody's success. So instead of, being bitter and, pouting and, not team guys, those two guys are competing every day. and they're made out of the right stuff. So they want to be the only quarterback, but they know in order to do that, they got to compete, and that's just the standard here. And so you manage the standard is the standard, and hopefully we can all reach that standard.
Kevin CREASY of Oakland joining us here on a late Coach's Corner. And Kevin, talk to me about Joe Wyatt from the standpoint that this guy last year was playing at Webb over in Bell Buckle, and obviously you know what a talent he is, but he's coming from the D2 AA level to Class 6A football. I mean, what was your expectation of him just in terms of making that transition to, you know, what some people refer to as big boy football?
You know, I really wasn't very familiar with his football. I had never seen him play. I still have never seen him play from last year. I did catch a Webb basketball game in which he dunked about 7 times on MTCS. I know a young lady that cheers over at MTCS, so I went and checked her out one night and was cheering on my daughter, who was cheering on a team that was getting dunked on over and over and over. And when he got the technical for hanging on the rim, I was like, "Ooh, I bet he's good at football." But ultimately, he comes over, and you know, I figured he might have trouble with the physicality of the whole deal. He might have trouble going both ways and playing on both sides of the ball, like he did at Webb. And he might have trouble, you know, kind of learning all of our stuff. But no, that's not the answer. UT is getting a heck of a player who's as physical as anybody we got. He loves the game of football. He's doing a great job at practice. He's getting coached up. And ultimately, he got challenged by a couple guys, and he stood his ground early on. And since the first couple weeks, people have respected him around here.
You know, you talk about rematches versus new matches at this point of the playoffs. What are your expectations out of this Bradley Central team that's coming in here in round 2 tomorrow night?
Yeah, you know, they've gotten some good guys that are making plays for them. They have more interceptions than any team we've played this year, so they've won the turnover battle over and over again. Their coach has been there for 20 years. You know, he does a great job. We went down and played Boo Carter a couple years ago, and we jumped out on them early, and they answered the bell at halftime and went 17 unanswered to tie us. And fourth quarter, we had a dogfight. And, you know, eventually it was one of those deals where we came out on top, but it was just such a back and forth physical game that they didn't get us that week. But the next week, we ended up losing the state championship because so many people were banged up from the week before. So they got us the next week. But what I'm saying is it was a heck of a matchup. And they love their football down in Bradley. That was one of the biggest, most packed stadiums we've ever been in.
That said, you're happy to be playing this one on your turf then, I guess.
Absolutely, definitely.
That was in 2023 when you finished as state runner-up to Houston. That's the only time in the past 5 years that you guys have not won the state championship and been in that game every year the last 5 years, obviously. 2019 was the last year you guys did not make the state finals. Again, as David was talking about the standard being the standard, just how does that happen? I mean, at this point, with so much movement and that kind of thing, how do you keep a program where you've managed to keep this program?
Well, Mo, you have kind of cut out on me a little bit.
Let me try again. Yeah, you guys have been in the state finals each of the last 5 years. Lost in 2023, as you mentioned, to Houston. 4 state championships beside that. 2019 was the last year your team didn't get to the state finals. How has Oakland managed to maintain that standard over this period of time?
You know, I think a big part of it is consistency with the coaching staff. You know, we've had other coaches go on to other programs but every time they've left, it's been a promotion. Our DC became a head coach at Gorgeville, which, by the way, they're undefeated right now and doing a heck of a job. Steven Jackson, our D-line coach became a DC down at Boyd Buchanan. They're undefeated, and he's doing a heck of a job down there with Coach Rankin coordinating his defense. So, hey, I think it's at the end of the day, kind of stuck it out as coaches. Our administration support the coaches here really well. And so when you can kind of get a tight-knit group of guys together that are passionate about the same thing, you can get a lot done.
There you go. Kevin CREASY, Oakland High School football coach, joining us here on Coach's Corner. Kevin, we'll take you late. We'll take you anytime, man. We appreciate you hanging out with us for a little bit, and good luck to y'all tomorrow night.
Well, Mo, I don't know what's up with this connection, but I appreciate you having me on, and if you could maybe get me on a little bit sooner next time, that'd be even better.
I'll talk to you later. Thanks. Let's take a break here as we continue Throwback Thursday on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, again, it is Throwback Thursday. We'll be throwing it back to a recent conversation we had with Thomas Harding of MLB.com, talking a little Atlanta Braves and a little Colorado Rockies, among other things. Stick around. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
Is your internet slowing you down? It's time for an upgrade. Whether you're at home, working from your home office, or at your business, it's time to unleash the speed you need with speeds up to 1 gig at CPWS for as low as $70 a month. Give us a call, 931-375-7777. Local service, local support, CPWS.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
There we go, man. Appreciate you. Yeah, thanks for sticking with us. What was your reaction when you heard that Walt Weiss was getting the gig in Atlanta?
Well, actually, I thought he was going to get the gig all along, to be honest with you. This is a guy, and it is funny, and I know I've talked to Walt about this before. The strange thing is, it's hard for guys to get their second opportunity, and a lot of guys are better in their second opportunity. And I think in a situation like the Atlanta Braves, he's getting that second opportunity in a much better organization or one that's set up to win. That's what a lot of people don't get. They usually go to, and I've talked to a number of managers, they go to an organization that has struggled, and then their next opportunity doesn't come. A lot of guys get that second opportunity, like say if they're hired by a team that was in the playoffs the year before. So I kind of expected this to happen, just knowing the way that the Braves operate. And I go back to was it 2019? I'm not good with years. Was it 19 when they won the World Series? Is that right?
No, it's 21.
21. Okay. Before it was post pandemic. How about that? That particular year, and I was kind of privy to some of what went on from talking to people in Atlanta. The way that the front office and the coaching staff and Brian Snitker at the time all worked together to kind of bring things together. And I'm talking about they had a really good analytics team that that actually went to the coaches. General manager went to the coaches. Hey, what do you need? All throughout the staff, and all of those moves that looked like the team was kind of punting the season, they were exactly what the team asked for. I just thought that Walt Weiss could fit in there. He could change some of the dynamic that's within the clubhouse because things get stale with the same manager. But I think that this was a good move for Walt Weiss. And
Well, I kind of wish you had told me that so that it wouldn't have caught me so off guard because I really felt like they needed to go outside of the organization and maybe get a different voice and that kind of thing. It feels convince me why Walt Weiss isn't Snitker 2.0.
Okay, well, my understanding is that they are different personalities that worked together. In other words, Walt was a little bit more intense as far as the dealings with the players and some of the things like that. More of the disciplinarian, kind of the bad cop to the good cop there. And Walt Weiss does have his own ideas of managing. I mean, and there are things that I think he's learned over the years also because the Rockies, let's face it, they weren't the most technologically advanced team at the time. But being with the Braves when they were good, I'm talking about being with the Braves and understanding how that particular part of the game works, I think that it probably made him better for this opportunity.
Thomas, you mentioned tech and you mentioned analytics a couple different times. I'm also curious, what, other than maybe that kind of experience or at least openness, what's the selling point of Walt Weiss to any franchise really as a manager, but especially obviously now with the Braves?
Well, I think the first thing that is being totally ignored in the game today was what I talked about before. The fact that he has done this job and there is a lot less of the newness to it. I mean, I'm looking around, I'm seeing a lot of people being hired for their first opportunity. And a lot of very inexperienced people being hired for their first opportunity. I thought that was the case with David Ross in Chicago. But let's look at a guy like Dave Roberts in Los Angeles, okay? He had been on some of the San Diego staffs, and he was very close to being a manager, had been interviewed and hadn't gotten the job a few times. I think some of those things can make you better, especially if you're with a team that maybe has struggled and has a chance to win. I think that not having to deal with the newness of the manager makes a difference.
Thomas Harding from MLB joining us here on Main Street Sports today. And Thomas, that was one thing that I had said when this job opened up that I felt like the Braves and the Brave situation warranted someone with managerial experience rather than someone, you know, who was going to be coming in on training wheels, so to speak. So from that standpoint, they did kind of hit the target with
Sorry about
someone
that.
who has been in that.
Actually working some stories now, so that's what's going on.
Oh goodness. Well, we appreciate you taking some time then, and we'll try not to keep you for too long. But they did kind of hit that target just in terms of getting someone that this won't be their first rodeo. Um, and to the point that you made, a lot of folks are better their second time around, especially when the dynamic changes in the organization. Colorado wasn't great, I don't guess, to be fair, when Weiss got that job.
Well, not only that, it wasn't just that they weren't great, but they were going through some experimental front office things. Like Dan O'Dowd was the official general manager, but during the season, Bill Guyvette ran the team. Guyvette ran the team from an office in the clubhouse right where the manager was. There were a lot of things going on. They had been one of the first teams to experiment with an opener type situation. They had this paired pitching plan. This was before Walt took the job. But what happened was They would have a starter go 75 pitches and schedule that and schedule the guy behind him. So they were doing a lot of stuff. So Walt's been through some crazy stuff. I think he's been through what happened in Atlanta, where you had a lot of younger players that improved, that struck out early in their careers, then didn't strike out when they won the World Series. Now, they have lost some of the magic there. I do think Walt is a different guy from Snitker, and that's the reason why Snitker hired him. So Walt will probably end up hiring a bench coach who will be different from him, and that's kind of the way it works. So I don't think this is that bad a move. I think that this is now, we'll say this, moves like this don't play great publicly, because when a team struggles, everybody wants someone from the outside to come in and, change all the furniture and clean house, so to speak. But I look at that roster, and I think it's a roster that can win. And you've got to make a decision on a roster like that. Do you need to totally shake up everything, or do you need to make tweaks here and there and get that roster performing the way that it should be performing?
And to your point, apparently you're not the only one that feels that way. Again, we were mentioning while we were trying to get you on, I think the Braves have the second best odds of any team in the National League to get to the World Series in 2026. So a lot of people feel the way you do, apparently, certainly in Vegas, in terms of this team's ability to be competitive with the roster that they've got in place.
Well, you look at the Toronto Blue Jays that finished last year, and they're in the World Series, and a couple of bad pitches and a couple of bad base running moves. If not for those, they'd be the champions of the world right now. And I always look at teams like this. Do they overreact to what happened? Do they underreact to what happened? So there will be some people who believe that the Braves have underreacted by hiring Walt Weiss, promoting him from bench coach. But we'll see if, in fact, this was the right reaction.
Thomas, you mentioned the roster. I'm curious, with Weiss's kind of managerial style, are there any immediate, hey, bank on this getting changed or bank on this guy having a different role? Anything that immediately kind of jumped out to you, or is it still too early to tell?
It's too early to tell with me. I mean, because a lot of what happened and a lot of what happened that worked, he was a part of what worked. And I think that some of it will be maybe motivating some players. Some of it may be changing his lineup a little bit. I know that when he was here, he had, and that's the thing about Colorado. When he was here, he left right before they got good. He had conflicts, frankly, with the general manager, Jeff Bridich. But on his way out the door, he told me, listen, the pitching is where it needs to be. He left after the 2016 season. In 2017 and 18, the Rockies were in the postseason. So he definitely knows personnel very well. He definitely can step in if there is, say, an issue where there's an unhappy player, or say a player doesn't run out a ground ball. I remember there was one where Nolan Arenado, who had become a superstar, he hits a line drive off the pitcher's leg, but Nolan had this habit when he had a bad at-bat or an at-bat that he didn't like, he would just kind of frustratedly slam his bat down and kind of jog up the line. It's something that a lot of star players do. That happened. Walt pulled him immediately out of the game, and I think it earned him a lot of points in the clubhouse. And that's my understanding, that that's the type of guy that he is. That if there is a problem in that clubhouse, he will handle it. Now, he's not one of these crazy disciplinarian guys. I mean, he's a pretty fun-loving fellow, to tell you the truth. I think that even in the Bobby Cox days, he said that one thing he wished the Braves would have done more at that time was have a little bit more fun in the clubhouse. So we'll see exactly how that all works out when Walt's in the dugout.
Interesting stuff. One of the things that I saw, Thomas, one of the reactions or one of the analyses that I've seen over this is that Weiss is a former player who's had success. You know, he's played in World Series. Has he won a championship as a player? I don't remember off the top of my head.
I believe he did win
With
one.
Oakland?
With Oakland, yes.
Okay, so that's a feather in his cap, just from a standpoint of being able to deal with guys who have expectations, I guess.
Well, that is true. And it's funny because I know that when he left Colorado, he was hung with that thing that, well, he doesn't really believe in analytics. And that's not true. And I know he and I have talked about this a number of times before and since. It's that what you've got to do, and if you look at those 2021 Braves, you've got to meld what they call the theoretical world with the actual world of the players. And I think that was one of the things that he really developed in when he was in Atlanta. And that's why when he was in Atlanta as the bench coach under Brian Snitker. So that's why I give him a chance of some success in this job.
San Diego named former Padres reliever Craig Stammen as their new manager earlier today after apparently they had gotten pretty deep with Albert Pujols. Had you heard that name at all? Were you surprised that was the way that played out?
I had not heard that name. It's a surprise, but the guy involved, I could see that what a lot of teams are looking at are former players that have come up in this information age that are stepping in, that are pretty close to the age of the players that are here. I don't know how well it works. I'm going to be honest with you. I really don't know how well it works. What would you rather have? Would you rather have that former player who is 3 years off the field and hasn't coached or managed? Or would you rather have Dave Roberts? Or would you rather have somebody that's managed through the minors on his way up? I'm not sure. I guess we'll see how this works.
Or would you rather have a guy who's never managed in professional baseball at all, but has won a College World Series?
Well, that's right. Yeah. I mean, I guess we're going to see. But look at the general manager who was really freshly off the field, and he became the general manager of that team. I know that baseball is, it seems like baseball's trying to send the message that it's a young man sport. But do young men win at the level that you want them to win? We'll see.
We will see. Meanwhile, with San Diego naming a manager, Thomas, your Rockies are the last team in this musical chairs for the 25 offseason. Any indication of when y'all are going to do something?
Well, this team's got to name a general manager. So that's what we're working for. We're looking at here as a media here. I know there were a couple of candidates that were identified by The Athletic as finalists. I'm not sure that they actually were finalists, and neither of those guys are going to get this job. So when I get off the phone here, I'll be making phone calls about that. They've been pretty quiet about it. I know they interviewed their former player, Adam Ottavino, a couple of days ago. Nobody believes that he is going to be the guy to run the baseball operation. What you would like to see is someone come in here and change everything from top to bottom. We're talking about a team that when I talk about analytics, and I guess the proper word is information. They don't have enough of it. They don't have enough people working it. And when you look at some other organizations where maybe they are really good technically, what happens is more information gets to the coaches and players faster. And that's all it is. It's not trying to come up with some sort of alchemy where, where you keep shuffling players and you shuffle your lineup and boom, you're going to win games. A lot of times it's just old-fashioned coaching, but maybe it happens quicker, maybe it happens more efficiently.
There we go. Thomas Harding of MLB.com joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Apparently, we have caught him on a news day. So, Thomas, we're going to let you go, man.
Well, let's hope for news because, I've had a lot of days where it's make a bunch of phone calls and you really don't have a story.
Understood. Good luck. We appreciate you taking some time. We'll catch up with you.
Hey, thanks, man.
This holiday season, the largest lantern festival in the country returns to Nashville Zoo. Experience more than 1,000 all-new handcrafted lanterns, towering creatures, magical worlds, and a North Pole village. At the center of it all, the Smashville Ice Rink. Welcome back to Zoolumination at Nashville Zoo. Bigger, brighter, and better than ever.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
It's one of those days here on Throwback Thursday on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's David Wilson. We are awaiting the arrival of Teresa Walker of the Associated Press to talk a little Grizzlies, but John Morant did not play last night against the Celtics. I'm not sure if it would have mattered or not, but tough loss for Memphis against the Celtics. Another in a long line of tough losses for the Grizzlies. And, you know, again, we've not seen this team in full to this point. By the time we do, I don't know that it's going to matter.
Yeah, I mean, the questions that we've kind of talked about is what would this team look like without Desmond Bane offensively on this team? And I don't think offense is their problem right now. It's the fact that they can't get any stops on the defensive end of the floor is what I'm interested to talk about Teresa with as she joins us. When you look at the games they've had just in the month of November, they have not limited an opponent to less than 100 points. So the opponents are having I don't want to say easy, but relatively easy time on the offensive end of the floor getting baskets. You know, that is with Jaren Jackson Jr. Playing for this team and being a defensive presence. So looking forward to hearing Teresa's thoughts on that, on, you know, why is this team struggling so much, particularly on the defensive end of the floor?
Yeah, the last game they won against Dallas a week ago Friday, they won that 118-104, and I don't know that they have held anybody else. They have not held anybody else. Well, they are 2-0 when holding folks to 104 or less, because they defeated the Pacers 128-103 in late October. But other than that, it's been 122, 146, 117, and like you said, that's not necessarily a recipe for success. In their last two, they gave up 131 last night and 133 the night before at MSG against the Knicks. So you got to start holding some folks down, it would feel like, to give yourself a chance.
And it is an offensive league. The Thunder league the team, or the league defensively averaging, giving up 107 points a game. So it's an offensive game and it's changed. But when you look at that, the Grizzlies are 24th out of 30 on allowing the points this year in the NBA. They've allowed 120.7 points per game. That is the average. So that is not good enough defensively to get things done in the league.
Yeah, and then when you add to that offensively, KCP doesn't scratch. Coward is 1 of 6 from 3. And you don't want to put too much on a rookie, but at the same time, you know, you've got some expectations for him at this point, particularly when Ja doesn't play. Got to get some offense from somewhere when you're giving up those kind of points.
Yeah, and then this is the first full season. Obviously, I guess they fired Taylor Jenkins at the end of last year prior to the postseason. Tomas Isolo got some run, to close the regular season, and then the playoffs in their first round loss to the Oklahoma City Thunder, who went on to win the NBA title. But this is his first full season. Obviously, they made some changes throughout the offseason, as we mentioned, trading Desmond Bain to the Orlando Magic, getting KCP back, building towards the future. They're going to have some draft picks that could be very interesting in the lottery rounds next year to build some talent around Ja Morant, as you mentioned, who did not play last night. So it's just the interesting course of action for the Grizzlies over the last year, really.
Yeah, and at this point, with again, Ja currently injured again, an ankle that he hurt against the Knicks kept him out last night. But the rumblings out of Memphis are, maybe he had his course in Memphis. Maybe he's tired of being there. Maybe they're tired of having him there. Not sure. And so if you're talking about getting draft picks to get talent to put around Ja, maybe that's not necessarily the case all of a sudden either.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions and maybe not a lot of answers, at least between the two of us, on the direction of this franchise. We know that, particularly this upcoming draft, those lottery picks, there's some very high profile players that teams are really excited about their possibility and what they can add to their respective franchises. So, not to say that per se that they're playing for the lottery per se, but having additional picks help build out your franchise, and you need those assets. I think a lot of people would say that was a good trade that they made with Orlando. Desmond Bain was a really good player for Memphis, great offensive player, but we've seen it this year. They've been able to score points at times, excluding last night. Once again, it's the defensive end of the floor that's really kind of limited them and their ceiling so far. Last time we talked about the Grizzlies between the you and IMO,
Mhm.
they started the season and they had that big win over Phoenix on the road. It felt
Right.
like they were off to a good start, and ever since then, the wheels have kind of slowly turned and fell off the bus.
Yeah, and draft capital seems to be a phrase that's getting thrown around a lot with our professional sports teams here in Tennessee, between the Grizzlies, the Titans, and the Predators. So, um,
Poor
and I'm
Teresa, we
not.
got to get her a winner with the Preds too. She's scraping the bottom right now a little bit.
It's tough. It's got to be tough. It's tough watching. It's got to be tough covering it. Teresa is efforting to get here, I am told. So hopefully she will make it in here and be able to shed a little bit more light on the Grizzlies situation in particular, because I'm just not sure again that draft capital is enough to really keep fans invested.
Well, they invested. That's a good word. I'm glad you used it. They invested a lot of money this past offseason in Jaren Jackson Jr. as part of their core. They handed him out that big contract, and you would think, John Morant, circumstances off the court, excluding his talent on the court, you would think he would want to be a big part of your future as well. So you have those two core, but you think about it too, with Ja being injured and out the last couple of years, how much time have those two actually spent on the court together over the last several years? You've had them separately per se, but the time spent together, I think that's something that Grizzly fans want to see more of as well.
Without question. And again, we've talked about it. We've not seen the finished product with this team. Again, Zach Edey's still on the sideline from that offseason ankle surgery, that kind of thing. There's a lot of pieces kind of missing with this Memphis team, and getting it all on the floor at the same time. And then, figuring out what it's going to look like once you do have everybody, once you are fully loaded, so to speak, how to play together, because I mean they're not going to have off season. It's going to be during the season, obviously. So it's just a tough situation, it feels like, for Memphis to be in, already 4-9. And
And you mentioned really quickly Zach Edey being out. You have to remember Scottie Pippen Jr., who played some really big minutes for them towards the end of last year, has not played a game this season. He had toe surgery prior to the season, so he was going to be out at least 12 weeks. So that's another player that was going to have some significant run in their rotation, get some minutes. That's going to be out in their backcourt. So that even hurts more when you don't have Ja on the floor. That's another guard that can not only handle the ball, but that has some run scoring the basketball as well.
As we await Teresa getting in, continuing the pro sports talk, Predators getting ready for their global series over in Stockholm tomorrow and Saturday against the Penguins, and it's been a minute since these guys have won a game. I'm wondering, and
We need some
I hate to mention it,
therapy.
just I hate to mention it because I don't want it to sound like I'm that fire the coach guy, but if Andrew Brunette isn't the move here at some point, then what is the move to get the Predators out of their malaise?
We asked Ann that question before the season started. It seemed like last year that several media personnel that cover the Predators throughout this town probably had already kind of pre-written the story, and they were just waiting for the shoe to drop per se that he was going to be let go. So that's a good question. I mean, they started off the season pretty well, but kind of like the Grizzlies, they've kind of really slumped over the last couple weeks. I think there's talent on the roster, Mo. You see some of the names on the marquee; they're really good, really talented players, and it's just not going the way that things are. And I couldn't tell you the course of action on how to fix things. We kind of talked about it before the year last year. They were last offseason gung ho, signed a bunch of free agents. We're going to make a run and try to get back to the Western Conference Finals and try to get back to the Stanley Cup Finals. It did not work that way. And they had a top 5 pick this past year in the NHL draft. Took a kid that probably wasn't the consensus best player on the board. And he's played a little bit, but I don't know what direction. Are we in a full rebuild? I guess that would be my question for Teresa.
Yeah. Well, let's ask Teresa some questions. We are joined now by Teresa Walker of the Associated Press here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Teresa, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us.
Think it's good. It's one of those days. You know how you start a day and you think it's going to go one way, and then suddenly it veers down the steep slope, and suddenly things escalate out of control. That's my day.
Oh. Well, we appreciate you hitting the brakes just long enough to come in with us. Let's talk a little Grizzlies. What is going on with them? I mean, how realistic is the possibility of a Ja Morant trade from what you know?
That seems to be coming from everybody who wants Ja Morant. I mean, seriously. You don't get talent and give it away. I know they traded away Desmond Bane, but let's be honest here, okay? They traded Desmond Bane because they're trying to build around who? Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr.
Okay. That's fair. And I know that, obviously he set out a game as a suspension. He's dealing with an ankle right now. I wasn't sure if it was actually that he didn't want to be there, or if they didn't want him there, or if it's just kind of circumstances that we are where we are right now. But 4-9, even as this team is constructed, is not where you want it to be or expect it to be.
Sorry, you caught me multitasking, Mo. Which team again? Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. This team, even with all the injuries that they have dealt with and are dealing with, this isn't where they expect it to be.
No. I mean, in June, they had, Zach Edey had surgery, and it was designed to stabilize his ankle. So, he's now doubtful. He may have a chance to make his season debut on Saturday at Cleveland. But Ty Jerome was a free agent signing. He got hurt in October. Brandon Clark has been recovering from a knee issue for a while. They did a procedure to help him with something called tenosynovitis. I can only say that because I'm dealing with something like that in my own wrists. And then you have Scottie Pippen, who he's had surgery to fix a toe with a big toe issue. He's not back until mid-January. The latest update we got on Brandon Clark was mid-January, latest return. So they've got 4 key pieces out. They've had to lean heavily on Jalen Wells, a second-year player. Cedric Coward, who's turning out maybe possibly the rookie of the year. I'm sorry, Cooper Flag fans, but this kid has come in after playing just 6 games last year at Washington State, and he has been amazing. And he's shooting threes. He's doing everything you could possibly want. But there was a great stat yesterday before the Grizzlies lost at Boston that nobody is facing more defenders and more help than John Morant on his drives, like 85.6% of his drives. He's got extra defenders coming at him. Why? Because John Morant is the guy that you want to stop from driving to the basket. You know, he was asked a few days ago about, you know, driving more to the basket. And, you know, he kind of said, it's like, well, wait a minute. You don't want me, you know, getting hurt when I go flying in the air, essentially, to paraphrase. That's when I tend to get hurt. He's trying to find a balance in his game, but he's also facing a lot of defensive pressure. And they need other people to play well to break that pressure against him, right? So that's the challenge that he's facing. And then, you know, there's Jaren Jackson Jr. Yes, he's amazing. Another two-time All-Star on this team. But I think that Zach Edey comes back. We'll see how much that young man actually helps, because not only is their first center hurt, their second center's hurt. So that's Brandon Clark. And then Ty Jerome is a guy you brought in to help, and we haven't seen him. And Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, you got in the trade for Bane. And, you know, people are like, okay, bench him now. He shouldn't be starting. So you have a lot of frustrated people in Memphis, and they don't want Ja Morant traded, although they are getting a little tired of the fussing and the suspensions. But, you know, let's put it this way. They're a little bit more upset with Thomas Isolo, whose system, I mean, it doesn't help when you don't have all the pieces of the puzzle you're trying to create, but they're kind of like, next. So let's just put it this way. The frustration is strong enough in Memphis that this morning was spent getting some prep story ready just in case we need it. And the fastest firing of a first-time or a first-year basketball coach in the NBA, Jerry Tarkanian back in the 90s by the Spurs after 20 games. So right now he's coached 13.
Mm-hmm.
We'll at least I'm ready, baby.
Oof. I didn't realize things had gotten to that point. Somewhere Taylor Jenkins is smiling, right?
Well, Taylor was given enough string to run, and he's the franchise's winningest coach. Let's just put it this way. There needs to be a fine balance between, you know, Taylor's message had worn out too, okay? They were second in the West in February, ended up having to play their way into the 8th seed. You know why you want to avoid the play-in? So that you could avoid playing the Thunder in the first round. The Thunder who swept Memphis easily on their way to a title. So, you know, things were wearing their way out, and, you know, Taylor was tweaking his roster and his lineups way too much when he needed to know what he had and go with it. He didn't have the injury excuse then that the new guy has.
So a new coach is more realistic than a Ja trade at this point.
Yes.
Is there someone on the staff that would be an interim option, or would they go outside of the current structure for his successor should that take place?
Well, the good news is there are a lot of coaches available. I mean, you know, not everybody got hired after the last slate. And I'll be honest, I hadn't had a chance to look at their slate. So, well, Penny Collins is on the staff as an assistant coach for player development, but I don't think they would.
That's a hell of a battlefield promotion right there.
It would be, but I mean, there's Eric Schmidt, Darnell Lazar, I probably just butchered his name, Jason March, and Ryan Saunders. So you're probably making a call to line. If you go there, you're probably having to make a call before you do that. Now, while they're in the midst of a road trip, you know, they don't play again until Saturday night. They were in Boston last night. So the expectation is they're home today, travel tomorrow, come back, because they don't play again until Tuesday at San Antonio. So we're on watch.
So you're talking like this is imminent.
Mo, we're professionals. We prepare for the worst
and hope for the best.
Exactly. I mean, you know what else I have to do later this afternoon? I have to write Andrew Brunette prep, and maybe I don't get it until Sunday. And the only reason I can breathe is the fact that they're in Sweden playing tomorrow.
Speaking of Coach Watch, if that's not the move that the Predators make, what do they do? Or do they just continue to spiral?
They need to do something. I mean, you look at the stats, and the Predators have started 3 straight seasons under Andrew Brunette, essentially the same. I mean, last Saturday they scored a bunch of goals, blew the game in the third quarter, and he's like, it's unexplainable how you lose this. Well, he's the head coach. He's supposed to be explaining this. I sat there when Bruno and Trotz told us that they had tweaked the systems. They had talked with the players. That these guys were going to be better too. Let's not forget they've got some highly paid veterans who, Stamkos just got his 3rd goal the other day of the season. Woohoo! I mean, and Matthew Wood had a hat trick Monday night. So this desire to try to walk that balance beam, what happens when you slip and fall on a balance beam? Nothing good. And trying to win and foster that youth movement, we're seeing some of the youth step up. Just feels like let them go. Let go with the youth and go ahead and lean into this rebuild that you need to be doing. And the Grizzlies are trying to do their own youth movement rebuild, but they're doing it with 2 key anchors. And we're finding out how quickly, very quickly, that Zach Edey is another one of those tent poles in Memphis.
As you talk about leaning into the youth, I mean, is it a situation where Trotz and Brunette are just not either or both aren't necessarily equipped for that?
It's a great question. I'll say this. I think a lot of people last July, a year ago, were trying to do what Barry Trotz did, sign Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault, Brady Shea. And, the players were so excited about that. But the problem with free agency shopping, Titans found this out last year. Sometimes you can go and buy that fancy piece that looks so good, and it's like, it'll be perfect in my living room. And then you get it there and it's like, it doesn't fit. It's not comfortable. It just doesn't work. And, I'm not the first. Steven Stamkos does not look comfortable on the ice. He's certainly not been as productive as he has been in his career. And he's turning 36 soon. So, this is the problem with signing some veterans and giving them big money, $8 million a year for a while, is that, careers take a turn. You might hope that somebody's going to be a Joe Thornton and play for a few years more, but that doesn't happen. And the problem is when somebody's body and their game starts changing and slowing down, you don't get a heads up that it's happening. And then secondly, I know that people are going to point to Matt Duchene. He's a guy who everybody wanted in Nashville. Didn't work out. Now he's looking great for Dallas. And that's the challenge, is you can't always do these things and make them look perfect. And you can plan it on paper. It doesn't work in real life. And that's where the Predators find themselves. Barry Trotz probably has enough of a history with this franchise in this league with his Stanley Cup that he won in Washington to have the bona fides and say, I can, trust me on this. And his trades, his drafts particularly. Matthew Wood was one of his guys. Okay. I think he was. I think that was the year that he and Poyle were kind of making the handoff. But, the drafts have been good. And it just feels like it's time to lean into the rebuild, which when, Barry was here building this franchise from the ground up. I can understand wanting to keep people in the seats and not go back to that point again, but they're kind of there. And the only way they seem like they can maybe find some good stuff out of the season is to lean into what they can. Get rid of some of the guys.
Yeah, Teresa, I'm going to dive in here on this Preds talk. I'm going to give some Titans fans maybe some PTSD using this word collaboration. But Andrew Brunette is a Barry Trotz guy. And so how much of his inability to have success these first couple of years falls directly on his shoulders? And you mentioned the word rebuild. What does that look like, particularly for this team? As you mentioned, there's a lot of high-profile players that are under contract that have had significant contributions not only for this team but in the league. What does that look like?
That's a great question. I don't know how you can. You're going to have to eat if you get rid of some, say a Stamkos. I'm going to use him as an example. If you get rid of one of these high-priced veterans, you're going to have to eat some of this money. It's the cost of doing business. You're going to have to mess up and admit that you messed up by taking some of that money back. Kyle Turris is still on this roster's payroll. Okay. Yeah. A name from the past. So it's like, it's what happens when you make mistakes that just don't go. For the longest time, Preds fans were keeping an eye on Shea Welder's health. It's like, oh, that contract's going to come back to bite us. Well, no, several others have. And so you start trying to get out of that what you can, because we've been told repeatedly the farm system is strong, it's healthy, it's there. So get more of these guys up. Maybe move Stamkos down the lineup, okay? If it doesn't sting his pride, maybe it just gives a younger player a chance to do something with better players around him, and we see what somebody can do, right? This time a year ago, Bruno was switching and mixing lines, and it was just tough to get any chemistry going. Well, they supposedly had that plan. There have been tweaks, but I was there back at the end of the season when, there was complaints by Jonathan Marchessault about, what they were doing. And, at that point, it didn't seem like he felt heard by the coaches. That, now we've been assured, there's been lots of talks. There's been tweaking. But, so the first thing is maybe it's firing Bruno. Then the decision is, do you go with Luke Richardson, who you hired this offseason? He's a former head coach. Do you go with a Carl Taylor, who really knows your talent well, right? And, so that is it coach? Is it some player moves? I think we're going to have to wait and see.
Teresa Walker of the Associated Press joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. The Titans off this past weekend with their bye week. I hate that word, but it's I'm getting overruled. It's an open date, but at any rate, back in action this weekend against Houston. Got a couple of guys back in practice yesterday.
Jeff Simmons back on the field today.
Putting the band back together, right?
Well, you would hope. Ridley played in the first game at Houston. So did Jeff Simmons. Devondre Sweat did not. This will be the Titans' first game without Draymond Jones. So we're going to, Denard Wilson, the defensive coordinator, said on Tuesday that there's been enough changes that, when he looks on some of he's using numbers instead of names. So yes, there's guys, they've had 5 guys added to the roster since, October, the end of October. And that was as of November 10th. It's like check. The numbers change daily, it feels like. So it's going to be very interesting to see what they do. The best part about the bye is and Mo, I'm with you, but at least the Titans, the NFL actually schedules byes. It's not an open date like college, right? I prefer open date for college. Byes are fine for me because it's a break in the schedule. It is literally a scheduled date that you're not playing. So we can quibble over what to call it. But the best part for the Titans is they got a win, and that they are now the only one-win team in the NFL, and that improved their draft stock. They're in the clubhouse leader, as we say. And suddenly that game against the Saints later this year is going to be very, very interesting.
Very interesting. But Teresa, and David and I were mentioning this phrase earlier in this segment, as the Titans continue to collect draft capital with the moves that get Jones and other folks out of here, somebody is left still trying to put together some semblance of a National Football League team on the field for the next 8 weeks, I guess. And
sorry about that.
How do you do that?
You've got guys. And, we were down talking with Tony Oden and, one of the position coaches, and it's like, well, what are their strengths? Or, and it's like, well, wait and see. These guys are in the NFL for a reason, essentially. And one thing we haven't seen, but for most of the opener, Devondre Sweat and Jeff Simmons on the field together. Let's not forget, Sweat came back and they were out there for a little bit, and then Simmons got hurt. So, and Jihad Ward, kid had an incredible game against the Chargers. Now, the Chargers offensive line was really banged up that day, but, he's the guy who's stepping into the starting lineup with Draymond Jones gone to Baltimore. So it is a cliche, but it's opportunity for these guys to show, if not the Titans, somebody that they need to be in this league next year. And right now, the GM told us last week that he identified at least 2 cornerstones: Jeff Simmons, Cam Ward, and they're taking and watching and auditioning right now for spots next year. You can't fill out an entire 53-man roster in one offseason. So some of these guys are going to be here next year, and we'll see how much they grow in these final 8 games.
Here's the thing. We said that very same thing. You can't fill out a 53-person roster in 1 year. We said that very same thing when Rand Carthon was in that position as GM. We're 2 years removed from Rand, and we're still, you can't fill a 53-man roster in 1 year. But you should be able to in 3.
Well, did you notice they hired a new GM in January? So yeah, they're on their 3rd GM since December 22. And look at the pantry larder, okay? There's not a whole lot of stock in there. Chigakwankwo is, the last man from his draft class. And look at how, then you've got Jeff Simmons and Amani Hooker from 2019. The shelves are empty. There's a reason why so many of the rookies are playing this season. Guys, you've got 3 starting on offense, and Gunnar Helm is essentially a 4th starter on offense, in addition to Alec Iamaner, Chim DK, Cam Ward, and then you've got, I think, Marcus Harris is set to be a starter. At least he's on the depth chart. So, youth is being served. The youth movement, the rebuilding is literally happening as we speak. They just need more help.
And Teresa, the team that they're welcoming into Nissan Stadium this weekend is much different looking offensively than it was the first time they faced them down in Houston. Davis Mills has provided a spark for this Texans offense, kind of connecting with Nico Collins the last couple of weeks. So what does that matchup look like for them defensively on that side of the ball, facing a Texans offense that looks boosted over the last several weeks?
It's going to be so interesting because let's not forget, in Houston, when C.J. Stroud was on the field, it was a 6-0 game in the 3rd quarter. It's why we were all kind of stunned when they punted the ball on the Houston side of the 50 in the 3rd quarter. And Davis Mills, he oversaw an incredible 4th quarter, but they needed the 2nd largest comeback in franchise history last week to beat the Jaguars in Houston. So, their offensive line is having its issues. C.J. Stroud has been ruled out for Sunday, along with Kaimi Fairbairn and a safety, and I cannot remember his name, but they've got 3 key pieces out themselves. So can Davis Mills do that again? I mean, they needed a big 4th quarter to come back against the Jaguars, and their special teams has given up, a couple of big returns on both kicks and punts. And the Titans have a rookie leading the NFL in all-purpose yards who just scored his first return touchdown before the bye in Chim DK. So, yes, I need to see it, because the Titans have scored all of 11 touchdowns. Heck, in the last game, they couldn't even outscore their defense or special teams. They had 2 field goals compared to 2 touchdowns. So, they've got their own challenges to go, but Houston's not the 2-time AFC South champ that they've been. Trading away Laramie Tunsil has left a huge gap. We don't, Joe Mixon is often, still dealing with his injury. They're turning to a rookie more and more behind Nick Chubb. So at running back, Christian Kirk was not the boost they expected when they traded for him for the receiving corps. So, if ever there's a chance for the offense to play for the Titans, to play on a level field of sorts, it's this one, except they've got to face a defense that's the stingiest in the NFL in yards and points allowed. So, and Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson, they know how to get after quarterback. So the one advantage for the Titans, J.C. Latham missed that game in Houston. He's back, feeling a little bit better every week. So I'm really curious to see how this helps.
Meanwhile, Teresa, on Thursday Night Football tonight, you've got the 2-7 New York Jets and the 8-2 New England Patriots up in Foxborough. Will folks out at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park be punching at air over the course of the night as Mike Vrabel leads the Patriots to 9-2?
I tell you, Titan fans probably don't want to watch that, but this is Mike Vrabel and the Patriots are taking advantage of the schedule that they got for a team that won 4 games last year. Think about this. He has already matched the last 2 seasons in wins totals combined. 4-4. And we saw it last Sunday. Did you see the great video of the guy running to the end zone, slowing down? It was like Dash and the Incredibles looking at his parents. I'm going slow. Is this good? Can I speed up? No. Oh, I can go score. That's exactly what happened. That's a sign of a Mike Vrabel coach team. That's a sign of a team that's made, the rewards of making the right decisions in personnel. I think I saw somebody shared with me that like 9 of their starters were brought in this year, or 9 of 11 or something like that. So on one side of the ball. So you can, if the NFL, you are rewarded and penalized for how good your decisions are. The Titans right now are being hammered. Patriots are showing that if you make the right decisions in hiring and personnel, and you take advantage, the NFL is parity for a reason. Why? To give teams a chance to get back and get right if you take it. So and that's what they're doing. It's, and Drake May in his second year, if you're a Titans fan, that's what a quarterback can do with coaching in a second season. People were ready to get out on him at the end of last season in New England, and yet he's doing things that have rarely been done in NFL history because of how he's being coached and the people he has around him. That's what's interesting about this league. That's why we keep watching, and viewership just keeps going up, up, up.
Teresa Walker of the Associated Press joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. T, as always, we appreciate it, but particularly today because I know you got a lot going on, and look forward to catching up with you here soon.
Thank you guys very much.
Appreciate it. Let's take our final break here on Main Street Sports today. We'll come back. We will get into the grab bag with some primarily college basketball. Stick around.
The winning just got closer. All new Sportsbook, the latest gaming machines, live horse racing, and more. The Mid Gaming Hall, Kentucky Downs.
Winning just got closer.
Being in Tennessee, we wanted to try to keep it as local as possible, so we have an entire section of our menu that is just dedicated to local whiskeys like Uncle Nearest, Jack Daniels, of course, George Dickel, Nelson Brothers, Greenbrier whiskey, and all of our taps are all local. From 2 o'clock until midnight, we've got food every day for you guys. A good handful of appetizers, some entrees, and a couple salads and things like that. My name is Ethan Kanata. Please come down and see us at the Pick Lobby Bar here at the Omni in Nashville.
There's a line that links us all. Most of the time, we don't even think about it, but it's everywhere. Illuminating our neighborhoods, empowering our businesses, and helping us to recharge. Whether it comes from our grids, the sun, or a kind heart, we believe in the power of good energy. And as your family and region continue to grow, you can trust that we'll always be there for you. Middle Tennessee Electric, bringing good energy.
It's the final segment of Throwback Thursday here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Let's talk a little women's basketball, and let's get right in David Wilson's wheelhouse, the Notre Dame fan. If you are a Notre Dame women's basketball fan, Hannah Hidalgo set a school record with 44 points last night, set an NCAA Division I record with 16 steals last night as Notre Dame defeated Akron. 16 steals. I can't grasp that.
Video game numbers. Taking candy from a baby, whatever vernacular you want to use. She is phenomenal. One of the best, guards in women's college basketball. I believe she was ranked the top 1 above Vanderbilt's Michaela Blakes, who we'll get into in a little bit. But she's phenomenal. She can do it on the defensive end of the floor, and she can do it on the offensive end as well with her 40-point night. So I know the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, they come from a long history of great guard tandems. We think about Skylar Diggins back in the day, Arike Ubungawale. She's going to be the next one to add to that great list.
Notre Dame game scoring record had been 41, set by Ruth Riley and matched by Jewel Lloyd, both of whom went on to WNBA fame and fortune. So that's not a bad breath to be mentioned in for Hannah Hidalgo. Heck of a game last night, obviously. Meanwhile, out in Ames, Iowa, Audie Crooks with 43 points as the Cyclones beat up on Valparaiso 97-50. 43 points in 20 minutes. And as she says, the night didn't start so well for me. This was going to be a shock, but this was kind of like the Michael Jordan flu game for me. I came out in the first quarter and I had to ditch my pregame meal. I was not feeling well at all. So this was a shock.
I was watching the kind of the highlight package from this, and she had it all working last night. I saw her catch the ball in the middle of the paint, turn around and do like a fadeaway jumper from the free throw line. So she had her entire bag working. Obviously, her size is so impressive, and when she's going against teams like Valparaiso, who have inferior maybe talent or height, she's going to get hers in the paint. But don't let her fool you. She can step away from the basket, and she has a nice, pretty little jumper.
Man, this class, these were all freshmen. She all go, obviously Juju, who's out this year. There was so many dynamic players in that class. This class of juniors now, really looking forward to seeing what the year provides for Audie Crooks and a lot of those others in her class this year. Again, 43 points. The previous Iowa State record of 42 points was set in 1984. So she broke a 40-year record for a good program in Iowa State under. So congrats to her. As David mentioned, and as we mentioned during the round, Vanderbilt went on the road to Clarksville, defeated Austin P 75-65. Michaela Blake's putting up Michaela Blake's type numbers, 26 points in that win up there. That team's going to be fun to watch this year.
They're going to be fun to watch. I know for the Vanderbilt faithful, this one might be a little tighter than what they expected. Probably give credit to Austin P on their home court, which seems like a weird matchup. You think they would make the trip down to Memorial Gymnasium rather than going up to F&M Bank Arena, but nonetheless, that's I guess you take any win on the road because it's never easy, right? We saw UT have their trouble with UT Martin this past weekend in Martin, Tennessee. So you take them any way you can get them. Aubrey Galvin. I know Elena Morris talked to you and Calvin about her. The talented freshman, true freshman point guard. She can pass. She can rebound. So she's going to be a name to watch. Not the biggest person on the floor, Mo, but God, her passes are beautiful.
Again, it's going to be a fun team to watch. Tonight in women's basketball, as we mentioned, again, Belmont goes to the Lady Vols. The Lady Bruins going in there at 1-1 with a win over Brown. Tennessee 2-1 with that win over Martin over the weekend after defeating East Tennessee State. Belmont was up on Oklahoma late and lost that one. So this Tennessee needs to be on their toes tonight.
Yeah, Belmont's not going to go in the Food Center scared by any means. They've already played, as you mentioned, an SEC opponent on the road in Norman, hung with the Sooners, so they're going to come ready to play against Kim Caldwell's Vols tonight.
Middle Tennessee men picked up a big win at Evansville last night. We talked to Chip about that on Tuesday. Kamari Lands, 23 points. Javin Carter, with 18 points in that 5-point win for the Blue Raiders as they stay unbeaten. Tennessee with a big win over North Florida. J.P. Estrella with a double-double, 23 and 10. The freshman Nate Ament, 19 and 9. And Jacoby Gillespie, 21.7 boards in that win, kind of doing what they were supposed to do against North Florida, I guess. Big matchup tonight down in Tuscaloosa as Purdue goes down for that one. The number 2 Boilermakers, the number 8 Tide, should be an interesting top 10 matchup there at Coleman Coliseum. That's going to do it for Throwback Thursday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Be sure and tune in tomorrow at 2 o'clock for more Sports Preps to Pros. Have a great evening.